Welcome to Lotus Health Education and Wellness Empowerment through Health Enlightenment. In today's video, we're going to be looking a bit at eating for your health and doing a video on the Mediterranean diet. If you like our content, remember to like and subscribe by hitting the buttons here below our video, and also follow the rest of our content. We've got great videos posted on our channel that will help you have empowerment through health enlightenment. Also remember that while we appreciate the trust that you place in us for these videos that we put out, always make sure that if you're going to make any changes to your health, talk to the members of your healthcare team. They have all the details about you and will be able to help you use videos like this as well as other information that you find out there to make the best health decision for you. So let's jump in today and learn a little bit more about why the Mediterranean diet is beneficial for so many areas of our health. When most people hear about the Mediterranean diet, certain countries or cultures and their foods may jump into your mind. But the important thing to keep in mind is that Mediterranean diet and the foods that are associated as well as the lifestyle habits could come from any of these countries and cultures that are from that particular region. And so if you're looking to incorporate aspects of the Mediterranean diet into your lifestyle routine, you can choose from a wide variety of foods and items that are popular in many of these countries and cultures in that region. We're going to take a look at some of them today and talk a little bit about the scientific research that's being done and shown how these different foods, spices, and lifestyle practices have been very beneficial in reducing certain conditions that lead to cardiovascular disease, as well as certain types of cancers. The practice of the Mediterranean diet goes back thousands of years. And in fact, there have been multiple studies that have been done, the majority of which we have published papers for began in the 1950s and 60s that look at some of these practices, not just the things that we eat, but also the way that we interact with one another. Depending on when you're watching this video and if you have Netflix, right now, one of the popular things on Netflix is a series on blue zones. And if you take a look at the location of where many of these blue zones are, both the ones that are featured on the program as well as just looking at blue zones in general, there are a lot of them that are located around the region where you will find countries that feed into that Mediterranean diet practice. And that's not a coincidence. A lot of the lifestyle habits, including the types of foods that are eaten in Mediterranean countries, have been shown to have a lot of health benefits. The majority of which we'll take a look at are really looking at things with your cardiovascular system, but we've also found that there's reduced rates of certain types of cancers if you follow both the types of foods and the lifestyle. I keep stressing the lifestyle because, again, if you've watched the Blue Zone documentary or studied anything relevant to blue zones and the work that's being done to understand them, the foods that people eat play one piece of that important role as to your health outcomes, but also the lifestyle as well. Being outdoors, getting enough exercise, and also that social interaction, having community and communication with other people or living things in general really helps with your stress level and your energy level. And so while we'll take a look at the foods here, as usual, you have to make sure that the lifestyle choices come along with it. In many of these blue zone areas and in places where the Mediterranean lifestyle and diet are pretty routine and part of everyday life, you're gonna find that people spend a lot of their time outside of their homes. They're doing a lot of exercises. In this case, with us in the United States and in other parts of Europe and other areas of the world, about 120 to 150 minutes of exercise, moderate to high intensity, or whatever you're able to healthy and realistically tolerate is what's usually recommended. But that's really important that if you're going to be looking to incorporate components of the Mediterranean diet and the lifestyle changes, the exercise and the social interaction is going to be really key. Having things like dinner parties or eating with a group of people where you can talk and really bring the stress level down is going to be very important. If things like that are of interest, you may also want to look at things like meditation or certain types of exercises that are meant to help you maintain your health and bring down your stress. But if you're looking for a dietary adjustment, let's take a look at some of the food items that, again, while the Mediterranean diet can incorporate foods from anywhere from Spain and Italy to Greece, Morocco, parts of the Middle East, you want to make sure that there are certain food items that are pretty consistent across different cultures from that region that have been shown through some of our recent research to have some great health benefits for different areas of your body. We're going to jump in right now and take a look at what some of them are. Whenever you hear many people talking about the Mediterranean diet, there are particular food items or objects, the spices, different things that people are going to typically be talking about when they reference Mediterranean eating habits. It's going to usually incorporate things like figs, dates, different types of nuts, olives and olive oil, things that have seeds incorporated into them, different types of legumes and beans, things like that, certain types of healthy fat sources like fatty fish, as well as certain fruits and vegetables that provide a level of healthy fats, and lean protein sources. You're going to see things like types of fish and chicken that are going to be recommended as far as options that you can look at for your Mediterranean diet and the protein sources. You also can have things like red wines, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And in keeping with one of our previous videos, which if you look in the description below, you'll find a link to our DASH diet video. One of the things that we talked about there is keeping your salt intake low. This is going to be consistent here with the Mediterranean diet as well. And the way around that, as you probably know if you eat food from that region, is spices. So certain types of spices are very commonplace, and this alleviates the need to add salt to give flavor, but still making the food taste great. So what is it exactly about some of these food items that make them beneficial? We're going to take a look in today's video. One of the food items that are considered a cornerstone in your Mediterranean diet is olive oil and olives in general. Now, while this is something that's very popular around Mediterranean countries from a taste standpoint, it's really important when we're talking about the health benefits to know with olive oil in particular, it's got cardiovascular benefits. Where we see this is in something called anti-thrombotic activity. That's a big fancy word that basically talks about the fact that with olives and olive oil specifically, we see a reduction in the buildup of things that are going to lead to clots in your system and help keep your blood vessels healthy and open and for blood to flow well through them. We also see anti-inflammatory activity, which if you take a look in the description below, you'll get a link to our video that talks a little bit about the advanced lipid panel. Inflammation in your cardiovascular system or in your heart and the surrounding arteries and vessels is really key, like we talked about there, because that leads to a lot of disease long-term in our lives. So olive oil having these anti-inflammatory benefits is really great when you think about all of the advanced disease that we talked about in some of our previous videos, because it helps with that being prevented. As well as anti-hypertensive activity, which basically, again, another fancy word that's referring to helping with your blood pressure and keeping it at a low, manageable level. We also see that there's some opportunity here in consuming olive oil and foods cooked in olive oil to reduce your bad cholesterol and increase your good cholesterol, or in more technical terms, reducing your LDL and increasing your HDL. We also see that there is what's referred to as anti-carcinogenic benefits, which refers to cancer. So certain types of cancers, olive oil has been found to lead to a reduced incidence. This doesn't mean that if you actively have cancer or if it's extremely high risk in your family that you won't get it at all. But in general, if you are otherwise healthy, consuming foods that are cooked in or in any way have olive oil have been seen to be associated with lower rates of certain types of cancer. Also really great is the fact that we don't see weight gain associated with high levels of olive oil intake. So another great benefit. Another really popular, and I'm sure this will make a lot of people happy, component of Mediterranean diet is wine consumption, in particular red wines. So I'm using this one just as an example. There's other types of reds that people might enjoy instead, but in general, red wine has been found to be associated with decreased rates of buildup in your arteries, what we technically refer to as a term called having anti-atherogenic properties to it. It also is associated with improvements, again, just generally, with certain things associated with your blood products and how your blood products work together to help with overall health and benefits of your basically blood samples and what we see it doing in your body. We also, and it's not really fully clear why, but in studies that have been done, we see increased longevity associated with people that have 1 or 2 glasses of wine every so often. Again, red wine specifically in this particular case, but these are some of the health benefits that we've seen associated with red wine consumption, which I'm sure will make a lot of people delighted. We've also seen benefits to pomegranates, which are another popular fruit in the Mediterranean region of the world. Where this comes into effect is cardiovascular benefits. We see it having benefits with the way that your body processes the bad cholesterol, or again, your LDL, and also some of those structures in the body, which again, if you take a look at our video on the advanced lipid panel, you'll hear us talking about things like foam cells and some of the associated things that happen as inflammation and buildup starts occurring in your arteries. Pomegranates, when you eat them, show a benefit with a reduction in those types of things happening within your cardiovascular system. Where hypertension is concerned, if you experience high blood pressure, eating pomegranates has been associated with a reduction in that top number in your blood pressure reading, which is called your systolic blood pressure. It's believed that it does this because pomegranates and the consumption of them releases and interacts in certain way, certain substances in your body basically that help to bring down one of the enzymes that is responsible for adjustments in your blood pressure in your body, something called angiotensin converting enzyme. And in the case of overall heart benefits, eating pomegranates has been associated with decrease in the bacterial activity in dental plaques, which basically is bacteria inside of your mouth and some of the buildup that we will see in our gums and areas of our teeth. There is an association between consuming pomegranates on a routine basis and decreasing some of those infections that can often also lead to issues with your heart. Many people may be aware that with your oral health, in other words, cleaning your teeth, keeping your mouth and that surrounding area clean, you have a decrease in risk of certain infections that can get into your blood and end up around your heart and the associated structures. Whole grains, things like ancient whole grains like quinoa and certain others, as well as things like barley and wheat, these are seen to slow down how food moves through your digestive tract and helps you to feel full longer. And also in patients that have elevated blood glucose, particularly people that have active diabetes, eating good sources of whole grains, which are not processed or very, very minimal processing and bleaching. So in other words, eating as much, whole brown type of grains or ancient grains like these, we've actually found that in this there's slowed increase in your blood glucose level associated with eating the sources of grains, again, whole grains that tend to be consistent with that quote unquote Mediterranean diet practice and the overall benefits to your health. Eating foods that either contain dates and figs or eating dates and figs themselves is going to be very good for your heart as well as overall health. Here I have an example of a snack that I enjoy eating. I like to eat stuff that has date paste in it. So essentially you want to make sure that it's very minimal processing. In this case, this is literally just dates that have been made into a paste with a bit of honey, and they're rolled in peanuts because I love peanuts and peanut butter. But essentially, dates and figs have anti-inflammatory properties, which if you take a look in the description below, you'll go back to our video about advanced cardiac disease and the advanced lipid panel. You'll know that we track things associated with inflammation that can be very damaging to the heart. We've seen associations with researching people that eat diets that are high in figs and or dates, and see that they have a reduction in some of those inflammatory markers and the inflammation that we see in the heart itself. We've also seen a decreased risk of certain types of cancers associated with people that eat diets, again, high in figs and dates. Consuming nuts in general, but in specific research studies, we found that there's benefits with pistachios and walnuts in particular have what's referred to as a cardioprotective effect. That is basically a really fancy word that we use in the medical field to say that diets that are high in nuts, and particularly these two guys right here, have benefits where it protects your heart from a lot of the buildup with plaque and other substances that can lead to blockages, as well as some of the inflammation that we see that can happen with advanced disease. So try to incorporate a nice healthy serving, which if you take a look in the description below, I give some examples of quantities of some of these foods and what we have identified as healthy amounts of the different foods we're looking at today in the video for you to consume to get some of these great health benefits. Legumes, specifically chickpeas, are seen to have some great benefits for your cholesterol panel. If you're looking for a way to try naturally to decrease your bad cholesterol or your LDL, chickpeas incorporated into your diet, generally in their whole form like this, and as you can see, it's mixed with some really nice Mediterranean style spices, or in the form of foods like hummus or other preparations of chickpeas, are seen as beneficial and can potentially help you decrease your bad cholesterol. And last but not least, your sources of good fats in the form of fatty fish. These are going to be beneficial because they help with your insulin level when you're fasting, as well as having anti-inflammatory properties. Remember, we talked a little bit about the association between your blood sugar level and the development of heart disease and other complications. Having good sources of fatty acids and in the form of oily fish like salmon, herring, mackerel, cod, you want to make sure that you try to incorporate these, usually from areas where you're pretty comfortable that there won't be high mercury content. Some people prefer to eat the wild-caught varieties as opposed to farm-raised. Whatever your particular type is, these types of fish are beneficial because they help with those two areas and help overall to give you a good source of fatty acids into your diet. So that's today's content with a really brief overview of the Mediterranean diet and things that you can begin incorporating, if you're not already, into your daily routine with your diet, as well as those lifestyle changes that can help you get some improvements in your overall health. You can do this at home, but even when you go out, making great choices about picking healthy foods will be great for your overall health. Whenever I try to go out to get something to eat, I like to go with options that allow me to be able to incorporate some of these things into my diet. This is from one of my favorite local restaurants here that does a lot of Mediterranean cuisine. They use the Mediterranean spices and foods that they're preparing, and it's really great as an option if you can't eat at home. You have hummus, you've got yellow chicken here, which is prepared with a really great Mediterranean spice blend, a protein mix that's got garbanzo beans and different types of beans mixed in for protein. It's delicious. Remember, if you liked today's video, to give it a thumbs up down below, and also leave us a comment on future topics that we can cover or any feedback at all that you think would be helpful to help other people have empowerment through health enlightenment. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more great content, and come back to see us here at Lotus Health Education and Wellness, where we offer empowerment through health enlightenment. Take care.